This playthrough is rated M for mature.
Greetings and salutations, viewers. Vauldemare back here with my Hakuōki, Stories of the Shinsengumi. Last time we found out some things about Okita and how he has tuberculosis, and we had a moment with him. The moment didn't last long as time had passed, and we are now still with the Shinsengumi, and we found out about our father and other such things, so who knows where we'll go next. But right now we're out with Saito. Let's see what he has to say. He was reckless with us because we tried to defend a poor woman in danger, and he's scolding us. Now let's see what else has to come of this story. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking.
そうよ、無茶なことしちゃって。あんなの私一人でも大丈夫だったのに。
That gentleman is right. You were dreadfully reckless. I had the situation quite well in hand. A scolding for Saito was expected, but I hadn't thought that my erstwhile damsel in distress would contribute. I'm sorry I made you worry. I gave her a short, slightly confused bow, to which she blinked as if suddenly remembering something very important.
あ、でも私あなたに助けてもらったのよね。
Ah, but you did save me, didn't you now?
まだお礼を言ってなかったわ。ありがとう。
And I haven't yet thanked you. How crude of me. Thank you.
あなた勇気があるのね。老子相手に立ち向かうなんて普通できないわ。
I must say, you're awfully courageous. Most people wouldn't dare confront a Ronin so. No, I didn't. I mean, Saito and his men saved me. I didn't really do anything. Yeah, he did save you. You didn't do anything. Well, that's not true. Some people kind of backed the main character up, but still. She raised a dainty hand to her mouth in a poor attempt to stifle a giggle.
謙遜なんてしなくていいわよ。
You needn't be so modest.
これも何かの縁だと思うし、女の子同士仲良くしましょうね。
How'd she know my main character was a woman? I mean, aren't I dressed like a man? Yeah, whatever. I suspect that our meeting here is Providence. Young ladies must watch out for one another here in the city. Saito glanced from her to me, and an expression flickered across his face that I couldn't quite place.
見る者が見ればわかることだ。動揺するな。
Oh, well, I guess some people just have better senses of analyzing than other people. You can't expect to fool everyone. There's no need to worry about it.
あら、もしかして内緒だったの？まずかったのかしら。
Oh dear, was it supposed to be a secret? Perhaps I shouldn't have mentioned it. Well, I wasn't exactly sure how to respond. How does a person respond to that sort of question? She seemed to sense my confusion and gracefully moved on.
ところで、まだお名前を伺ってなかったわね。
I'm terribly sorry, but I don't believe I've even asked your name. How terribly boorish of me.
これも何かの縁ですもの。教えてくれる？
I should very much like to be friends, but it's difficult to become acquainted with the nameless. Might I inquire as to who you are then? Well, It seemed only polite to introduce him first, meaning that he was a good deal more important than I, but the girl seemed to have other ideas.
そちらの方は斉藤さんよね。新選組は有名なもの、知ってるわ。
Oh, I know who he is. Mr. Saito, yes. The Shinsengumi is frightfully famous here.
で、あなたの名前は？
And you are? My name is Hinata Yukimura. It's nice to meet you.
よろしくね。私のことはセンって呼んで。
And it's a pleasure to meet you, Hinata. You may call me Sen. Miss Sen? Sen, a young woman who was rescued from belligerent Ronin in Kyoto by the heroine, also known as Osen. Well, now we know.
なんか水臭いな。見たところ同い年ぐらいだし、そんなにかしこまらなくていいわよ。
Oh goodness, you needn't be so uptight. You look to be about my age, so I see no reason for us not to speak as contemporaries. So just Sen then?
まあ、許容範囲かな。
Yes, I suppose
そう
that
呼んで
will
くれる
do.
と嬉しいな。
No, didn't mean to interrupt her. Sorry. She grasped my hand between her face open and earnest.
じゃ、また会いましょうね。
We must meet again sometime, Hinata. I don't know if we actually meet her again in this story or not. It's kind of like that one lady we ran into earlier. Well, earlier as in like a chapter ago, but anyway. She gave my hand a gentle squeeze, then turned and left, her kimono flapping behind her. Our encounter was over before I had a chance to grasp what was even happening, so I simply stood, stunned for a moment or two. I glanced up uncertainly at Saito. Is my disguise really so easy to see through? If it wasn't, then how had Sen, whom I had just met, been able to tell immediately that it was a girl? I had to admit I felt like it was a pretty good disguise. Saito looked down at me, a strange expression on his face. Who knows? What? Wait, what's that supposed to mean? His only response was a flicker of a smile. I opened my mouth to protest.
そろそろ場所を変えるぞ。これじゃいつまで経っても見回りきれない。
We should go. We've fallen behind already. We must hurry to complete our patrol on time. He spun on his heels and marched off down the street. Fine. It was clear he had given me all the answers I was going to receive, and so I hurried to catch up, albeit somewhat petulantly. It felt like summer. Each day was hotter than the last. On this particularly sweltering day, I was bringing some tea to Kondo, who was relaxing on the veranda. Here's your tea, sir.
Arigatou.
Oh, thank you! He had been deep in thought, arms crossed and face stern. Things had been bad since Lord Lemouchi's death. Kondo especially was having a difficult time of it. Perhaps it was best if I simply left him alone. I turned and had already begun to walk away when he spoke.
今、掃除を松本先生に見せてるんだ。
Matsumoto is examining Soji right now. Did he know about Okita's illness? What did he say?
まだなんとも。何か重い病気でなければいいのだが。
He hasn't said anything yet. I hope it's nothing serious.
もし掃除の身に何かあったら、あの人に申し訳が立たんからな。
If something happened to Soji, I don't know how I'd be able to face her. Her? Yeah. Lines formed across his forehead and his frown deepened.
今日に来る前、掃除の姉のミツさんからくれぐれもよろしく頼むと言われていてな。
When we left for Kyoto, Mitsu, his older sister, asked me to look out for him.
ミツさんを怒らせたらどんな目に遭わされるか想像するだけで恐ろしい。
Hell hath no fury, hell hath no scorn like a woman's, hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn. Am I right? If I made her mad, I shudder to think what might happen to me. The very thought is terrifying. What would she do to you? It wasn't exactly the sort of thing I'd ever thought I'd hear from Kondo of all people. As his descriptions of her behavior became more and more exaggerated, I found myself laughing.
いやいやいや、笑い事ではないぞ。
Hey, this isn't a laughing matter.
あの人と口喧嘩するくらいなら、不逞老師10人を相手にした方がまだマシだと思えるほどだ。
I'd rather fight off 10 Ronin than try and argue with her. She's quite something.
確かに俺もあの人は苦手だ。
That makes two of us. Hey, Chikata.
何事もなきゃいいんだが、もし掃除の身に何かあれば、その時はミツさんへのことづてを頼むぞ、トシ。
I hope everything will turn out alright, but if something should happen to Shoji, then I'd like you to be the one to tell Mitsu, Toshi.
冗談じゃねえよ。そういう表立った仕事は局長のあんたの役目だろう。
Like Illy will. That kind of crap is what we have a chief for, chief.
そうは言われてもな。
Easy for you to say. Kondo's behavior had been strange enough, but Hijikata's too? Just what sort of person was Okita's sister?
そりゃそうと、近藤さん。三条大橋に建てられてる政察のことを知ってるか？
Oh, right. Did you hear about the notice board over by Sanjo Hashi Bridge? Sanjo Hashi, a bridge over the Kamo River at Sanjo Street in Kyoto, is the last stop on the Tokaido and Nakasendo roads, two of the 5 routes of Edo. And notice board. A board to notify the public of established laws regarding specific people or affairs. Wouldn't have guessed that. The board he was talking about had been set up by the shogunate to officially and publicly declare the Choshu enemies of the court.
最近、あの政察を引き抜いて鴨川に捨てたバカがいるらしい。
Some assholes pulled it out and tossed it into the Kamo.
無論その話は聞いている。だがその政察は立て直されたんじゃなかったのか？
Yes, of course, I heard about that. Haven't they already replaced it?
そいつがまた引き抜かれちまったそうだ。 そろそろ新選組にお声がかかるんじゃねえか。
They did. Something happened. I think they're going to ask us to keep an eye on it pretty soon.
以前札が引き抜かれたのは確か夜中だったな。
They got torn down at night, didn't it?
なら三男さんの羅刹体を使ったらどうだ。
What do you say to using Sanen's Fury corpse then? Hijikata
羅
frowned.
刹体か。
The Fury corpse.
なんだ、引っかかることでもあるのか。
You would think it's a bad idea? Hijikata chose his words carefully. His face
あいつ
frowned.
らは確かによく働いてくれるが、やりすぎなんだよ。
They work hard enough, but they tend to get a little excited.
どんな任務につけても、それに関わった者は全て皆殺しにしてきちまう。
Whatever we give them to do, they end up slaughtering the other side.
しかも、それだけじゃ飽きたらね。元の形をとどめないくらい、死体をバラバラに切り刻みやがる。
That's not enough for them, though. They go in and hack the corpses to bits. Most of the time, they're not even recognizable.
新選組の仕業だってバレねえようにするためとはいえ、ありゃ、いくらなんでもやりすぎだ。
Maybe they're doing it to try and hide the Shinsengumi's hand, but they're going too far.
新選組は人殺し集団じゃねえ。死体で遊ぶのはやめろといくら諌めても治らねえ。
We're not just a pack of murderers. I told them to knock it off, but they won't listen. They just want to play with their corpses.
あれじゃ、辻切り連中と変わらねえよ。
They'll keep this up, and we're no better than those night cutters. I felt a shiver snake down my spine as he spoke. Even more than a year later, I still remembered with terrifying clarity what I had seen when I first arrived at Kyoto, the Furies. They behaved as if possessed by evil spirits, their swords hacking away mercilessly at men already dead. It hadn't been hatred or fear that drove them, but some sort of twisted amusement. I didn't think I'd ever forget the half-mad smiles each had worn.
ま、いくつか手を考えてみるか。
I've got a few other ideas.
そうだな。細かいことはトシに任せるよ。
Good, good. I'll leave the details to you then,
と
Toshi.
ころで、この間聞いたところによると、将軍後見職の一橋慶喜公がだな。
Ah, yes. Have you heard about Lord Yoshinobu Hitotsubashi and the Guardians of the Shogun? Sorry, it took me a while to get that down. Guardians of the Shogun, a position created during the Bakumatsu period to assist whatever held the office of Shogun. Yoshinobu Hitotsubashi. Born into the Mitu Tokugawa clan, he was adopted in the Hitotsubashi house, one of the other three houses, to increase his chances to be shogun. He held the position of the guardian of the shogun with the 14th shogun, and later succeeded him as the 15th. Well, the game where he told us who the next shogun's going to be. Hooray!
家康公の再来と言われてるそうだな。確かに頭はいいのかもしれねえが。
Yeah, what about him? I've heard a couple people say he's like Ieyasu reborn. I don't know about that, but I do hear he's pretty sharp. Before long, they started to discuss politics I couldn't begin to understand, and I politely excused myself. I'm just a girl, I can't understand politics. Although it's probably too boring for the book. I mean, when you need to skip stuff in a book, you just need to skip it. You don't need to explain everything. It just depends on the situation. I had thought back on what Hijikata had said. It was true that Sanin had been acting strange, and the Fury Corps had been getting more and more violent. There was a lot on my mind, but what worried me the most was... Oh, well, alright. Let's pull out the old dice here. Didn't have it ready because I wasn't... Oh! I keep accidentally pressing the shoulder buttons. Sorry about that. Alright, here we go. Let's pull out that die. Even top, odd bottom. We got an odd. Let's check out the Furies, because we are stupid. So we don't need to see that silly notice board. All it has is letters and numbers on it. Just as Hijikata had predicted, the Shinsengumi received an official request to guard the notice board at the Sanjo Ohashi Bridge. As it turned out, the Vandals were 8 men from the Tosa domain. Tosa domain, a domain ruled by the opposition daimyo Yamaichi. I think it's Yamachi. The domain supported by the Imperial Unification, but many Roman from the Tosa region were nationalistic imperialists. Man, it just sounds like a bunch of is and us and isms stuck together. Harada and his division were well prepared and captured them when they attacked. Harada was given a reward by the Aizu for his service, and he took the rest of the captains to Shimabara to celebrate. Shimabara, the district in Kyoto where one could find licensed courtesans, also called the Red Light District, the Adult Center. I had remained at the temple to eat my dinner alone, but my heart felt like a lead weight in my chest, and it chased away my appetite I might have had. What's going to happen to the Shinsengumi and the Fury Corps? Almost as if on cue, the door slid open and Sanden stepped through. Oh, hello, Sanden. Can I help you? I'd scarcely opened my mouth when Sanden began to speak. The water of life is amazing!
羅刹化計画は成功です。失敗などと言っているのは理解の薄いバカ者どもだけです。
The Furies wrong voice. The Furies we've created are a complete success. Only a short-sighted fool will call it a failure. They simply lack a proper understanding of what we've done.
この薬さえあれば、長州だろうと土佐だろうと恐るるに足りません。
With this, we have nothing to fear. Not Toza, not Chosu, not anyone. Santa's becoming crazy.
君もそう思うでしょ、雪村君。
You agree, don't you, Yukimura? Sanden's face looked wrong somehow. This wasn't the man I knew. His eyes glittered with something strange and frightening. It looked unpleasantly like madness. He'd been acting odd lately, but it was different from when he'd lost the use of his arm. This is more threatening somehow. It felt as if it was rapidly spiraling out of control.
どうして何も言わないんです。まさか君もあのバカどもと同じ考えを持っているのではないでしょうね。
Say something! You don't agree with those fools, do you? They don't understand! His left hand wrapped around my wrist with fingers like steel cables and hauled on my arm, trying to pull my face up to look into his. I pulled against his grip, but he was far too strong for me to overcome. Please stop! The horrible twitching madness in his eyes was too much for me, and I screamed.
女の子の手首を掴んで何してるんですか、三男さん。彼女、怖がってますよ。
What are you grabbing her for, Sanden? That's not how you impress a lady. See, she's terrified. Okita flashed a grin, but his hand on Sanden's arm didn't waver. Behind him I could see Saito and Hisuke.
いや、議論が白熱したせいで頭に血が上ってしまってね。面目ない。
Oh, I got caught up in the moment. I lost control. I apologize. On the other side of his glasses, Sanden's eyes had returned to normal. The glint of madness was gone. It's good to see you back. You're a little earlier than I expected, though.
佐野さんは新八さんに付き合わされて朝まで飲んでくるみたいだぜ。
Sano's gonna be drinking till morning if Shin has anything to say about it.
さすがに俺は体力が持たなそうなんで途中で抜けてきたんだけどさ。
I didn't think I could handle that much, so I left it with this pair of sticks in the mud. I think I'm getting more of a southern accent than an Australian accent nowadays. It's only the three of you then? Hisuke grinned.
土方さんは炭屋にいた君菊って姉さんに気に入られたみたいだぜ。ずっと隣にくっつかれてたからな。
Ichikata caught the eye of a lady at Sumi called Kimagiki. She sat next to him the whole night. Sumi, a restaurant located in Shimabara, the Kyoto Red Light District, where high-ranking courtesans can be hired for entertainment. Weirdly enough, not straight-up prostitutes, weirdly enough. Though they can do that, there are some courtesans that do that, but some of it is just like hanging out or giving them tea or playing games with them. It's...
I
mean, it's similar, but a little different. Being the commander of the Shinsengumi doesn't seem to stop him from getting all the ladies. Kimagiki? Kimagiku?
ああ、すっげえ綺麗な姉さんだったな。つうかあんなの呼んじまった佐野さんの懐が心配だよ。
Yeah, she was real pretty. Actually, I'm a little worried that Shano might not have enough to pay for her. I see. One of Kyoto's Oran, then, she was probably just as beautiful as Hisuke said. Oran, or Orin. Orin. I'm just gonna say Orin, even though that's not how it sounds. A term for courtesans during the Edo period, specifically those in the Yoshiwara district of Edo and of high rank. The higher the rank of the Orin, the more wealthy and powerful their patron had to be. High class ladies of the evening. They must have made a beautiful couple. I gazed down at myself. I gazed down at myself, small, plain, and dressed like a boy. You'd be surprised how many guys like girls that have that type of build. Kind of like the girl next door, because there's a difference between girl next door and like the high level like actress, you know. Suddenly I felt very sad.
どうかしたのか？暗い顔をしてるようだが。
Is something wrong? You look unhappy. Oh, no, it's nothing. I did my best to give him a convincing smile.
疲れているようだな。そろそろ部屋を出た方が良さそうだ。
I imagine you're tired. Perhaps we should leave. His last words were directed at Sanin, who struggled inside.
そうですね。では、さっきの話の続きはまた次の機会に。
Yes, I suppose so. We'll talk another time then.
それじゃ、今日はゆっくり休んだ方がいいぞ。
You should get some rest, Hinata.
I will, thank you.
And I meant it. Sanin had calmed down, but I had no wish to be around him. Just then any longer than I had to. Okita stopped at the door just as Sanin was leaving.
そういえば、三男さん、あの薬って病気も治せるのかな？
Sanin, does this water of life stuff, does it cure disease and thing too? Uh-oh.
もちろん治りますよ。
Of course.
ごく普通の人間でしかなかった私が以前とは別人のように生まれ変わったんです。
I was a normal human being before, but I have been reborn into something completely different.
不治の病だろうと絶対に治すことができるはずですよ。
I'm sure it could even cure even so-called incurable diseases. Huh. They started walking again, and I could hear them as they moved down the hall, still talking.
今の三男さんは掃除に任せよう。
I think we'll leave Sanin to Soji for now. He watched them leave, his always unreadable face stern and of course unreadable. He remained for a few moments before leaving himself. Hisuke had stayed silent during the exodus. When he finally spoke, his voice was sad. I could barely hear that. Sanin's different. God, now I'm getting a southern accent in Australian. I can't keep my Australian accent going. Then again, the captains who had been with the Shinsengumi since Edo were beginning to grow suspicious of Sanin. Hisuke was quiet for a few moments. I was starting to feel as if he was avoiding my gaze when he finally spoke. He told me that when Harada and his men had been attacked at Sanjo Ohashi, one of them had seen someone who looked a lot like me. This strange person had tried to impede the Shinsengumi and sided with the Vandals from the Toza domain. That might have been that one lady we saved a while back. And I'm not talking about San, I'm talking about the other lady, I forgot her name now. I haven't left the temple, of course, and even if I had been Sanjo Ohashi, I never would have tried to get in the Shinsengumi's way. But if it wasn't me, then who? What could it mean? Hisuke's news only fed the anxiety that had been slowly building within me. Yeah, the problem with choosing certain pathways in the game is if you never play the game again, you miss out on a lot of like small details if you don't choose a certain pathway, so which gives you reasons to play the game multiple times if you want to. It was near a year's end, and I was outside in the cold weather, sweeping the compound. Whew. Well, that should do it. I wanted to help out as much as I could, but since they still refused to let me out without an escort, there wasn't a great deal I could do. I'm surprised she hasn't gone crazy from being cooped up for so long. Still, I had helped make our home clean, and that felt good. Hopefully they'd like it too.
境内の掃除が随分精が出るな。
Well, thank you for cleaning, I see. You're certainly hard at work. Well, thank you for that. I do a lot to clean. But what else will happen inside this compound? A lot of things have occurred, but more things will happen. We still need to find out about our history, and about our father, and what's going to happen to Shinsengumi. Is Okita going to take the water of life? Sounds like it. Find out next time on Hakuōki Stories of the Shinsengumi. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next episode.